Welcome to Ewtn's continuing live coverage of the Synod of Bishops on the Family. You can hear the bells of St. Peter's chiming behind me. That's our cue to get started. We are almost at the end of week 2 of their meetings inside Paul VI Hall. Today, the Synod Fathers held a plenary session that gave many of them the chance to voice their opinions. In the press conference today, the results of these presentations were summarized. One topic emerged as principal interest: communion for people who are divorced and have entered into another sort of de facto union without first having obtained an annulment. Let's hear what German Father Hagencourt had to say during the press conference.
Often, familiaris consortio is cited as a pastoral way. One Synod Father suggested a catechumenal way for the divorced and civilly remarried. The divorced and remarried are members of the Church in a complete way. They're not excommunicated. So the question is not if the Church is doing something, but what the Church is doing to help them authentically and believably.
The same topic emerged also as reported from the Spanish language representatives at the press conference, with the statement that it would be unjust if people in these situations are permitted to receive communion. Let's listen.
In relation to the suggested penitential way, one of the fathers opened the question of the penitential way to arrive at the communion for divorced and remarried, that there would be a situation of injustice to those spouses who stayed true to their first marriage and who go to Mass in the same parish of those who have not been faithful.
Later, 2 bishops were invited to give their input from inside the Synod Hall. The president of the Polish Episcopal Conference, Bishop Stanislaw Gadecki, made strong statements about this topic.
For us, in the Bishops' Conference of Poland, this possibility is excluded. We have always emphasized the process of nullity, and we have spoken of the possibility which is given in Familiaris Consortio 84, all forms of ecclesial life in which a divorced person can participate, in the educational field, or in charitable works, as well as in the listening to the Word, in the Mass. In all fields, he can be a good testimony of family life, which can also prepare others for marriage. There is a multiplicity of ways in which the divorced can participate in the life of the Church. They are part of the Church. They're not excommunicated. We have to pose the ultimate question, which is, in what does their conversion consist of, if that's supposed to be the goal of the penitential path? Because if this conversion is only about desire and emotions, then it is not a true conversion.
Another press conference was held today by Voice of the Family. This is a group, an international pro-life coalition to promote marriage. The conference was focused on the topic of parents being the primary educators of their children. There, Cardinal Burke made a comment that parents have the first right to educate their offspring. Let's listen.
They must therefore be recognized responsible for their education. The role in education is of such importance that it is practically impossible to provide an adequate substitute. It is, therefore, the duty of parents to create a family atmosphere inspired by love and devotion to God and their fellow men, which will promote an integrated personal and social education of their children. The family is, therefore, the principal school of the social virtues which are necessary. It is, therefore, above all, in the Christian inspired by the grace and the responsibility of the sacrament of matrimony, that children should be taught to know and worship God and to love their neighbor in accordance with the faith which they have received in earliest infancy in the sacrament of baptism. End of quote. Certainly, society in general and the Church in a particular way also have a responsibility for the education of children and young people, but the primary responsibility of parents. At times becomes so relativistic and subjective that we do not even observe the fundamental logical principle of non-contradiction. That is, that a thing cannot both be and not be at the same time. In other words, certain actions cannot at the same time be both true to the moral law and not true to it. In fact, charity alone must be the context of charity. Tolerance means unconditional who is involved in evil, but firm abhorrence of the evil into which the person has fallen.
With me today on set, my first guest, Father John Walker, professor of communications at the Pontifical University of the Holy Cross here in Rome, and a specialist in all things media and the church. Welcome, Father. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Mary. It's great to be on the show.
That's not too intimidating a title. You're a specialist in everything. Is that all right?
We'll see.
The issue of divorce and known in the press, referring to them, but we'll call them that for now. It came up a lot during the press conference. It's something that they discussed inside the Synod Hall. I think there is some difficulty with couples in that situation that their access to the Eucharist is not a right. How would you address that?
Well, there's a number of things that I think have to be looked at dealing with divorced and remarried couples. One is, obviously, they may have an interest in receiving Holy Communion. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to face the fact that they didn't show the same interest in the sacrament when they got the benefit of the sacrament. So are they
right.
really that interested in the sacraments or not? Now, obviously, the sacrament of the Eucharist is a sacrament that you can receive many times, and it gives us strength. But it gives us strength only if we're in the state of grace.
Right.
So it's important to go through the conversion from a state of sin to a state of grace to receive Holy Communion. The other thing I think is really crucial here is that it's not clear that it's divorced and remarried people who are the ones requesting, from bishops, mostly German bishops.
Okay.
Common that in dioceses where they set up programs for divorced and remarried to encourage them to be involved in the life of the church in one way or another, that almost no one shows up.
Oh.
In other words, this is a request coming from a rather small sector, and it's really coming from Germany.
Okay.
And this is a request that's been made over many decades now from Germany, Walter Kasper, or Cardinal Kasper.
We know he's the main proponent of this. But you're saying that even the programs that have been set up in that country, involved in church life, they don't seem to be that interested in kind of helping out or getting back on the penitential path. Or
in fact, there was a study recently done in Germany about actual practice in Germany, whether they were giving communion to divorced and remarried people. In many dioceses, they were already doing that. But so the experiment has already been run, and it's a failure. I mean, the number of people going to church in Germany has been declining rapidly.
So bringing this up in the Synod Hall as a proposal,
that other bishops would want.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. We'll have more, of course, on that coming out of the Synod Hall with the Synod Fathers. But let's talk communications. Have you been happy as a communicator, as an expert? You form future communicators for the church. Have you been happy with the communication that the Fathers and the Assembly have done in general this year?
Well, it's a huge challenge, the communications around a synod. John Allen, the Vaticanist for his own website now, Crux, is on record as saying about covering the synod. We're covering press briefings about the synod. And that means that the journalists are not inside the Synod Hall. They're not in the meetings. And what you're getting in the press briefings is inevitably going to be partial. It's going to be selective. I mean, with the best will in the world, you can't provide a full and complete account of what's going on in the synod through the press briefings. And we know that in the press briefings, they're leaving out crucial information, like who said what. That's not even being said. And often you're you didn't hear it being said.
Oh, or we heard a topic was brought up, so it sounds the synod. When it comes out later, no, one bishop brought it up.
You don't get a sense of the relative importance that different topics have.
Yeah, and that can get spun by the media because we have to have something to write about and to talk about. So we say, oh, they talked about that today. It must have been the main topic of discussion.
Yeah,
so
and naturally people grasp at what interests them.
Yeah, what can make headlines.
It's a big challenge, and I think Father Lombardi and Father Rosica, probably are doing absolutely the best that they can, but they're not infallible, and they're facing great limitations.
Okay. For you, just in general, Pope Francis has, I guess, shaken things. And we have a new way of doing synod. We have a new way of doing a lot of things.
Right.
And he's made our job a lot more fun in a certain way. What do you think of him as a communicator, not just about this synod, but in general? What can we learn from him, or what's the church learning from him?
Well, I think there's no question that the Pope has captivated the world. I mean, that everybody, wherever they're from, wherever geographically, ideologically, spiritually, is interested in what the Pope has to say. And that's a very good thing.
Okay.
That people are and his words and paying attention to what he's saying. And unfortunately, in the past, sometimes was the case that people just tuned out.
Okay.
But with Pope Francis, they've tuned in. And I think it's part of it his colloquial style, his naturalness, the ease with which he talks. That is interested people. Obviously, there's also an interest in the fact that he's saying what seem to be new things, at least they seem to be, and possibly he's going to say something surprising is keeping people on their toes.
Yeah, and communicators as well. I mean, we can't wait to open the news reports every day. The conversation. We have to take a break, but stay tuned for more from Rome. Welcome back to EWTN's coverage of the Synod on the Family, live from Rome. Today I have the pleasure to see Archbishop Set. Welcome, Your Excellency, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Mary. Glad to be on the show.
Nice to have the Scottish brogue here on the set, finally.
Yeah, people keep saying I love your accent.
I do. Of course, we Americans, we don't have an accent. So,
no, of course not.
No, not at all. Well, what I'd like to ask the Synod Fathers, because we're on the outside, the folks at home are on the outside, so what's the general experience been? What's going on in there?
Okay, well, Mary, this is my third Synod in 4 years. Oh. So I'm getting to the veteran stage.
Okay.
And it's because there's 270 and cardinals there with the Pope and with other people who are delegated to the Synod. There's 2 sessions each day, 2 working sessions, 9 to 12:30, 4:30 to 7. So it's quite heavy, and you have to prepare and read the document, and listen to interventions. And I think today they said that Synod Hall now are complete, and there have been 248. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Although some guys go over.
They do. I bet they're Italians.
And
Give to the gab.
Well, I did today, and I went over by about 25 seconds.
Okay,
but they were patient and indulgent.
They give you less pasta at lunch, I think, when that happens. I'm not sure. No.
And I'm staying at the North American College actually with the bishops there, and they've been very welcoming.
With Monsignor Cecchio and the whole gang.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
The whole assembly.
Well, you're supposed to choose a passage or a part from the working document, and in the working document there's a section on adoption, and as a way of introducing needy children into a loving family.
Yeah.
Now, I've got an adoption agency in my diocese, and it's its 60th year.
Wow.
So I told the fathers that, and they were very, very interested. But the whole point, though, it's a matter now in our country and in yours. Adoption is a delicate issue,
sure.
And religious freedom gets involved in it, because there are quality legislation wants same-sex couples also to have the right to adopt. That has made in our country some adoption agencies, Catholic adoption agencies, close, or
they've had to close.
Yeah, they just closed. They just folded, or else else they just local authority.
Okay, so not
adoption
not
agency.
Catholic.
But we didn't.
Good.
St. Margaret's continued to place children with a married mother and father as a preference. However, there was a challenge by a secularist group, as you would imagine.
Sure.
But when it went to a hearing, St. Margaret's won the hearing. Well, when in the hall, I got a huge applause.
Well, I was about to say, I was about to applaud myself.
I had to stop them because I was running out of time.
That's why you went over.
I've only got 18 seconds, I said. And I saw the Pope laughing when I said that. So that was why, because I thought it was important for the bishops. And a lot of bishops said to me, that's important for our country.
We haven't heard it talked about a lot, adoption, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 bishops today spoke on adoption, so I wasn't the only one. So.
Okay, I didn't hear that come out. I wanted to ask you about another thing. Couples today who are deciding not to get married, but maybe they... Give us a concrete example, if you can, of how the church can... Okay, so you have this couple living in this way, whether they're divorced, remarried, or just living together. How do we get them back and on the path?
I mean, we've all got that in our diocese and in our families.
In our families, everyone,
and everybody recognises that is probably the most important pastoral challenge. And there was a lot of analysis of it, and there was recognised that it's a complex. There's so many factors. Factors are.
Do they want to hear the church's teaching? Do they want to come back? I mean, it's kind of like we have to go fishing for them. We have to go fishing for the souls.
Yeah. But I think what it shows is even in the fact that they are in a union of sorts, there is a need for family. There's a need for that kind of family. So what you have to do, everybody was saying, there was this whole emphasis on welcoming and accompanying, and them, being
doctrinal
harsh,
and
or very harsh.
Right.
Love doctrine.
I know, I love doctrine, but if they see the finger being pointed, let's say, in the harsh,
not finger wagging, and draw them on, and I think,
welcoming,
and also the great kind of the great golden egg of this would be great programs for this, but they're very hard to do. But there's a great willingness among the bishops. To draw them forward to they can make a decision to get married.
We hope they do, and we have about 1 minute left. So I just wanted to ask you: we're ending week 2. I know. What do you expect from next week's synod? Just briefly.
Everybody's asking that. And I was talking to Archbishop Chaput before. I said, he said you can't say that because we don't know, because it's still to unfold. But there will be a document,
and that'll be given to the Holy Father.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
And the groups are finishing their work. This week it's it's the pastoral challenges. It's a third part. So
Okay.
that will reveal a great deal.
I think there's a lot of Synod left. Yeah, just to tell the people at home, there's a lot to follow, and we appreciate you taking the time to bring some clarity to the folks at home and myself about what's going on inside and the message.
Thanks, Mary.
Which is,
Thank
I know,
you.
sorry it was so quick.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much.
Glad you made it across the piazza. Now it's time
thank
for
you.
Cena. That's our show for this evening. Remember, for all the latest information on the Synod, visit our special Synod page on EWTN.com and follow us on Twitter at EWTN. Synod. And don't forget to tune into EWTN News Nightly for more. Mary Shovlin, good night from Rome.